Yes, shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be a good point to start, no? Like as a someone who's
Well,
not who was like researching it from the point of research, not as a what do you say, conventional fan, or maybe you have more objective. I don't know. Let's see. What are your thoughts? How was it?
it even started before you like before we decided to do this podcast because
Mhm.
that video that you sent of his where was that race? The 2021, right? The
I
video
think
that you
Italy.
sent to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a friend who's like very deeply into F1 racing. He has been for a number of years now, and I never gave attention to it myself. Like, as in, I never watched any of the races. The most
Mhm.
exposure I had was like the stuff that he used to share on his stories. So, I would say, like, at least in recent times, the video that you shared, which we will link somewhere,
Yeah.
um, was one of the first times that I was like seriously watching it. And I kind of like immediately went into it. Well, I kind of understood why he won, why that race itself was highlighted. So in that race, if I remember correctly, it kind of feels like it was luck because I think it's because yeah, exactly, yeah, it was the pit,
Strategy,
right?
more like strategy issues.
The other guy had to
Yeah,
the
but yeah, I had to.
the likely winner had to pit more than he was planned to. Um, what exactly happened? Like his wheels wore out. Or
Yeah, yeah.
wheels. Yeah, they
I
used the
mean,
wrong types of tires. The one was like the left wheel was like soft or medium or something. That all the other wheels were something else.
no, I mean, he was using
Was his?
hard tires. Basically, I think there's also, like you said, the other teams made some bad strategy calls, or
Mhm.
partly like, but maybe at that time Perez was just still up and coming.
Mhm.
Uh, but now I think he's peaking. Like, currently, like recently, Red Bull also re-signed him his contract like 2 days back after last week's race, which he won. So, and you saw that how emotionally he got on the podium.
No, I didn't watch any videos from the Monaco race. Yeah.
No, no, no. You asked me like about that story that I put up.
The
What was
reel.
happening?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So that you can see, like he was getting emotional, and
Mhm.
so now he's in a top team. Back then, he was not in a. He was back with Force India, if I remember right.
Yep. I read his history like just before we got on this call. I was reading his wiki, and I'm not sure if this is common for all racers um, or drivers. So he was more or less coming ranging from the 16th position all the way up to sixth and fourth, and he secured. I think his career started in 2012. I think. Um,
I mean, yeah, it's been 12 years. He's been in Formula One now, so that'll be what?
2010.
Yeah, 2010. Oh yeah, it's been
Yeah, okay.
12 years since 2010. Time is flying. So yeah, I mean, so currently he's in a better team. Like Red Bull is like the top uh, team. Like right now, they have a good car
Mhm.
with new regulations also came this year, 2022. Like so, they had to make there are these formulas. Like that's how it's called. Like basically Formula One. So they have these formulas on how the specifications, like how the car should be designed. So now that he's in a good team, I mean, he has been in Red Bull since 2019, if I'm right.
Mhm.
Anyway, he's been a good team player, very good team player for Max Verstappen. And you know, if you look at the previous races, there is always a good support that's been coming from Checo, like defending. If Max is in front, Checo will be like, if Lewis Hamilton is behind him, Checo would, he would not, he would hold Hamilton back. If you race, if you won't let the other driver, if the other guy has to struggle a bit, so that'll also wear out their tire, whoever is trying to overtake.
Mhm.
So strategies like that, he has always been a good team player, but always a second in the team because they want Max to win. just like Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas was in Mercedes. So there are these all second favorite, second, what do you say? The drivers who are not the preferred ones, the number ones, the number two drivers in each team, who are also really talented and who also deserve a shot, but sometimes they have to play the team game.
Mhm.
And with the last race, like everyone is saying, like this is Checo's time. He has a real chance. So I mean, he's been performing well. So hopefully he can take a real good shot at becoming the champion. So yeah, I'm really happy for him.
Okay, can you kind of explain? So, how what, how do the seasons work? Like, how long is the season? Like, what's the structure of the race? If that's something you can explain.
Season as in like a year racing calendar. Is that like it goes from March to December
Okay.
usually? So yeah, I have the calendar in front of me right now. So should I
Correct.
share it? Yeah. So here it is. So as you can see, like they begin testing in Feb. That's when the winter. I mean, yeah. So
Feb of
November
this
is the
year.
last race, and after that is a period when they develop the car for the next year. They do testing. So from November onwards,
Okay.
they'll be making changes. More improvements. Each team will go into more research, development, all that phase. They come for testing here, and then
It's
the first race
it's quite
is
a
here in March.
packed it's quite a packed schedule. Like, there's not
Yeah,
much gap between each dates.
it's also like I mean, since I started watching, it's also been exciting to
Mhm.
look forward to something. Something is there happening every week or every alternate week.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I really enjoy the things. It's like spread out, until November. You're like kind of back. It's gonna happen and it's a championship also. So it's exciting. And I mean, I'm relatively a new fan. I haven't. I used to wonder like, what is this? It's like, what is this? This kind of guys. How does the racing like really happen, or
Mhm.
what is really fun about it? There are cars, guys are racing. What is the fun part of it? And then my friend introduced me to this, and I'm really glad he did. Um, and yeah, anyway, yeah. So there are so much complications, rules, and it's a weekend structure. So race happens on Friday. I mean, practice happens on Friday. Saturdays are qualifying. That determines the grid position on race on Sunday. I mean, this is for anyone who's not having any basic idea about F1. Also, I think if you are looking to pick up a new sport to watch something, it's pretty easy. Just to pick up, just sit down on a Friday and you can go through watch the races. It's interesting, and you can. I mean, it's pretty uh, interesting once you really get into it. And next one is coming up on June. And like you said, yeah, it's packed, and it's also strange. It's not strange. It's interesting how these venues have. I mean, this is a big business model. So
Mhm.
there are contracts that each track sign
Mhm.
to be on the calendar. So the last race that happened, Monaco has been one of the most prestigious F1 tracks. Monaco being the richest city in the world. And it's been historical. It's been 90 years that I think Monaco has been on the map, on the tracks.
Okay.
So yeah, I
I'm
mean,
quite
since the
I'm
start,
I'm quite
but
interested
you
now.
must have seen that track how narrow it was. It's a street circuit.
Is there any sort of clip that we can play of Monaco? Because again, I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I mean, let's play the
Will your audio
highlights.
The audio be
They were monitoring a severe downpour that was rapidly approaching the circuit, and as it arrived during the start procedure, the safety car starts and its associated
This was a
procedures.
mess actually. Like this,
the weather.
it's already, yeah, the weather was rainy. It doesn't mean they stop it, but you know, being a multi-billion-dollar event, they can't stop anyway. But
Track then for
the commentators were like really pissed that the start was getting delayed because it was raining. They were like, you know, this is not junior racing.
I have a question.
Yep.
What is the role of the safety car, and how does that work?
Basically, they are there too when if in the event of a crash or something, or if there's some weather-related event, they'll do a yellow flag, the race directors. So, and then a safety car might be put into use if it's needed, and that'll just slow down the race. You know, they'll have to limit their speed, and the safety car will be there, and all the racers will have to, you know, follow the safety car, and they cannot overtake during the safety car is there. So the track position remains. Basically slows down in the event of a crash or something. There is time to, you know, clear the debris if there is anything on the track, set the barrier straight. So as you can see here, during the formation lap, the race directors decided that the formation lap is also like when these guys just come out of the pit stops and basically take their positions on the grid for the actual start. So this also like usually gives them time to warm up their tires, because tire compound really matters. Tire track temperature, humidity, all these factors really matter, like the speed. And if you look, I mean, it's very fascinating how close these guys are, like in terms of timing. If you see, yeah, see,
plus 1
Monaco
second.
was
Plus 2 seconds. So first three are just 3 second gap.
Yeah, just within 3 seconds. And Russell, so these guys are clearly having a better engine, better car this year, Red Bull and Ferrari, opposed to Mercedes,
So
which had.
It's quite obvious that Ferrari is using. I mean, I think it's obvious that Ferrari would be using a Ferrari-produced vehicle, but Red Bull, what vehicle is, or what engine is Red Bull using?
Basically, there are 4 engine suppliers for this year. So that's Ferrari is one, Mercedes is another one, Red Bull Racing. So basically, Red Bull was using Honda's engine earlier, and before that it was Renault. But now, so Honda pulled out this year, and they agreed. They started manufacturing engines from this year onwards. So Red Bull is developing their own engines now. And the other one would be, the 4th engine supplier would be Renault.
So we can argue that
Alpine is using. Alpine is the only team that's using Renault's engine right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're saying?
Aston Martin doesn't mean that they're using an Aston Martin engine.
No, Mercedes is supplying them.
60 seconds, 1 minute.
Yeah, so this race, it was. See, these guys are pretty close, but then these guys are having another battle. So these are the best of the rest. So there is this 1, 2, 3, or 1 and 2 engine manufacturers. There's also the World Constructors Championship, which is going on parallelly, like which team is having the most wins. So last year, Lewis Hamilton didn't win the World Drivers Championship, but Mercedes won the World Constructors Championship, because they had more points than any other manufacturer, any other team. But this year, Red Bull. Yeah. So if you look at Monaco podium, so these look at it. So the constructor will also be there. See there. So this guy is winning.
It's a person.
So the whoever took the first place and their team's engineer or some representative would be on the podium with them. So that adds point to their own. I mean, all of this adds, like first and second has a point. There are points for the first 10 positions. So yeah, so there's also this drivers and constructors championship too. Both of them are there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, what made me one fan, I mean, what amazed me one lap, if you told me to choose, us Jeddah Max Verstappen's qualifying lap. Okay, crash. This is an incredible video where you see him pushing the car to absolute limits, and in the end he's not able to register the time because he crashes out just before the finishing line during qualifying.
Crashes into another player?
No. Into the barrier, because qualifying is more about setting a fast lap time. So I said Fridays are practice. Like Friday you reach a venue, and then on Friday you start going around the track. You learn how the track is. And there are 3 practice sessions: FP1, FP2, and FP3. So there are 2 free practice sessions, basically FP. So 1 and 2 happens on Friday, and FP3 happens on Saturday morning. And then on Saturday itself, like in the afternoon, they have this qualifier sessions, which is like timed. So there is like a 20 minutes timer that runs down, and all these 20 cars like take to the track. They start doing these quick laps, like they are setting times, and so if you are the slowest 5 will be kicked out of Q1. Basically, the top 15 guys will be going into the second round, just Q2 qualifier second round, and again they'll be setting new fresh times, and in that whoever qualifies the fastest 10, they'll go into Q3. So this year, because the new engine regulations came, like Lewis Hamilton even couldn't qualify, couldn't get out of Q3. I mean, couldn't get out of Q1 because in the first leg itself he was not able to. He was the like what do you say, top contender for world championship last year, 7-time world champion. But sadly, this year Mercedes was not able to come up with a good car yet. They are making improvements, and so quickly things can change quickly, and yeah, I mean, I hope he's picking up, and so that we can see more interesting battles up top.
Are you aware of what sort of changes they do? Like, I mean, Mercedes coming up with a new car, like, are they like each iteration is, what sort of upgrades are they looking at?
So basically, from 2014 onwards, F1 started making it's called the turbo hybrid era. So they were all about making the engines more efficient, and also reducing the carbon footprint, all that. So the what do you say, in that era, in that engineering spec, Mercedes really nailed it. So 2014 onwards, they won 7 consecutive, what do you say? They were winning consistently, and they had a really fast car, and other teams had to really push to even stand a chance. So in 2022, new regulations came, and in that, Ferrari is doing a good job. Red Bull is doing a good job. I mean, when I say good job, and these guys are not qualifying, it's just a difference of like maybe 2 seconds or 1 second, maybe 1.5 seconds. And people will be losing their mind, especially if you look at the last 2-3 drivers, or people are quick to blame them. They are not useful. They are not good at all. Especially like this driver, Nicholas Latifi. They say he's useless. It's a bit harsh, but even then, they're exceptional drivers when you look at it. But maybe not when compared to the top 5 or 10. So if you ask me like what changes, changes, it's very secretive, I think. So it's also a thing where Aston Martin recently, let me show you this. Aston Martin made a change because, I mean, in their body and the design of their car recently in this season itself. And the design looks suspiciously close to that of Red Bull.
Suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, and people started calling it the green Red Bull. See, this was the first design, initial. What do you say? Yeah, so this was the initial design of the car. This one, and then it looks really beautiful. I was like an instant fan of this design when it came out, and then they changed the design to this, which is very similar to that of Red Bull. See this, and so they're saying, does it infringe like intellectual property rights? But anyway, the design the design change didn't really benefit them, not as much as, I don't know, maybe people are expecting. Aston Martin is running on a Mercedes engine, and somehow the Mercedes engines also have been not performing that good, while Ferrari has been doing a good job. Red Bull has been doing a good job. I mean, better than how these teams are faring right now. But you can't say anything. Things can change always. As of now, anyway, Max and Charles Leclerc is in front. So yeah, they have been racing for years together. They grew up. These guys all have a different lifestyle and bringing up because they have been exposed to motor racing at a young age, karting. They have grown up racing together, and it's fun to watch when you get to know the drivers. So do you have any favorite, like, off the top of your head, maybe just from the initial look? Is there any?
It's too early for me to say that. I haven't formed an opinion. I did have other questions, which is like, how, like, for example, Ferrari has their own team, or let's say Mercedes has their own team, but like you said that the Aston Martin team is using the Mercedes engine, so that I assume that they are obviously not going to provide their latest engine with the best improvements, etc., etc. So that itself puts them at a disadvantage. Is that how it works?
I don't think they will, give them any lesser engine because a lot of it is also about how the aerodynamics works. So even if you have the engines right, unless you have the chassis and all the aerodynamic stuff right, you're not gonna fare that well. Actually, recently I just showed you that, right, how Aston Martin changed its design. So Christian Horner, the Red Bull's team principal, was saying, it is if there is actually any theft of intellectual property right, if it is just a copy of like of visual images and stuff like that, then you can't say much. But otherwise, I mean, they should be also allowed to sell the aerodynamics also. So he said that, and yeah, that sounds interesting, like, but that's the only differentiating factor right now, because if you have the same engines, the aerodynamics is where the thing changes. So if you look at the car designs this year, like, it's really different for each team. Let me share this. Yeah, I mean, you can hopefully see how each team is different in that design. So AlphaTauri and Red Bull. AlphaTauri is like a sister team of F1. It's owned by Red Bull itself, but it's like a B team.
Mhm.
But even then, they have design differences. Aston Martin was going for this kind of thing with grills here. Ferraris is see this. Mercedes has what is it? These are called side pods. These areas. So Mercedes was going for a no side pod design with minimal side pod. And look at Ferraris. It's a very different looking design.
They're
McLaren.
absolutely beautiful machines.
Yeah, I mean one of the beautiful things is like this is peak engineering, like there are also cases where F1 innovations have helped in how supermarkets have been able to save energy in their refrigerators because of innovations that came from F1. Because you have these refrigerators, and when you open them, how the air flows out of it.
Mhm.
So some supermarket shelves were able to like design a thing like a small piece that's like this in front of the shelf. So if this is a shelf and you're pulling things out of here, so there is a small like wing like a thing, if you notice, maybe next time if you go, and that was able to reduce the electricity consumption because it's able to keep the cool air inside more efficiently than a design without that aerofoil or whatever. So innovations in this is also like affecting other industries also. I mean, yeah, look at this. This looks absolutely beautiful, but unluckily it didn't favor that much. Yeah. So all of these teams are different in the design, so that is also what sets them apart. Nice website, by the way, whoever is hosting this. Fantastic.
So based on what we've spoken about right now, I think like the elements that like make or break a race, it's like the engine itself, the design of the vehicle, um, the tires,
Track type, yeah, weather.
type, okay, and then personality types of drivers.
Oh yeah,
How to be aggressive, how to see opportunities, because I think like theoretically they can analyze strategies and like come out of this corner in this particular angle from this way, but when you're on the track in behind the wheel, you would certainly need to have some, like aggressive to a certain state.
I'll just share this. This was one of a defining moment in Max Verstappen's career.
Mhm.
Racer Senna was hailed as a masterclass.
So during the Brazilian Grand Prix 2016, it was raining.
Schumacher's victory in and bravery from the off passes on Kimi Räikkönen at turn 1 and Nico Rosberg at turn 3.
And Max Verstappen was able to. I mean, that's also strategy again. The team was able to, predict that it is gonna rain. I mean, they do predictions, but he switched into wet tires earlier than the others, and was able to have a real good advantage over the other drivers. So
it dropped him right down the order, and it looked like they'd thrown away.
Makes it so much more exciting.
Chance of a race win.
Yeah.
But what came next will go down
Look
in
at
history.
this.
In the last
so there is always this racing line.
Chance of a race win.
So the quickest route around a path, like around the track. So this is the traditional racing line here, and Max is going away from that, and he just bolts,
Why did that happen?
Yeah, so there was this.
Ricardo was dispatched around the outside of the high-speed downhill left-hander at Mergullo. four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel was passed in an uncompromising style.
Get that. Aggression. But it's also like, it's all racing. You know? Yes.
Sergio Perez were also among his victims as he charged through to secure a 7th podium of the season, while Ricciardo finished down in 8th. It's hard to compare performances from different eras of Formula
Made up
1.
11 places or something. Right. So, in an interview after that, like, he was asked, like, how did you do this? How did you? So then he was like, he was testing out, you know, patches. Like, there are dry patches on the track. So he was going away from the line and skiing where it is not wet, where it is not that wet. You know, and so he was able to identify that earlier. So it also requires so much quick thinking and so much courage. So there is so much strategy and what do you say? Yeah, it's basically you gotta do it and see if it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And I think we can, or I can comment about how, like, if, for example, if we were analysts of the drivers, like after the race, like the point that you just told me about how the driver is looking at certain parts of the road which are drier than others, that's something pretty niche and hard to pick up on. So there might be characteristics that we don't even know. I mean, they're like you said earlier, secrets and, you know, their trade secrets. So it's quite interesting. There might be a lot of hidden gems that haven't been found yet that can be playing a part in a certain, like, a person's victory.
Also, like, these guys lose weights during the race, before and after. Like, because during the race it is so, like, you know, exhausting and so demanding physically. Because they are going at what, 300 around a corner, 300 kilometers, turning it. So there are these G forces that's on your body. So that is immense.
What sort of lap, like how many laps are usually in a race? 60?
No, it depends from track to track. So
Okay.
sometimes it is 60, there is 78. The shorter the lap, the more number. So there is a basic distance that is to be covered, I think. Not very sure about it, but yeah, it depends from track to track.
So in your experience,
Anyway.
how long does a race last?
1.5 hours anyway, at least.
Okay.
So there is this clock also, like there's 3-hour window for the entire event and a 2-hour race clock. So if there is like so much delay, like that there was in Monaco, like for the last race, because of rain, we were, you know, postponing the start of the race. So because of broadcaster reasons also, they had to limit. There is this rule that comes in when the timer runs down from 2 hours. So at the end of 2 hours, they just give them one more lap. So it doesn't matter if you will not be able to finish the predetermined standard laps anyway because of the delays. But at the end of the 2 hour, they'll be like just one more lap, and then it ends. So that'll be the last lap.
Okay. Are there any questions that you have for me? So, like, from my newcomer perspective?
I would like to see and learn more about how the financial side of it, about the business industry, the industry that it is, like, because it is a registered company, Formula One Group. And recently there's a Liberty Media Group that bought out the Formula One Group in 2017, I think. So this is also one of the biggest markets, I think, biggest business, what do you say, platform. Also, there are so many cryptos that are sponsoring events, sponsoring teams, which says a lot about the thing. I mean, the level that it is. And also for the future, they are looking at, you know, becoming more sustainable. So currently the calendar is like all over the world. If you see, it's in the US one day, then it's in Japan, Singapore. So it keeps going on all over the globe. So they are trying to make club the locations, so that
What do you
all
mean?
the tracks in also so all the tracks in a particular region would be, you know, in a closer weekends. So next year onwards, Las Vegas is also gonna be a new track, and this year Miami came. So if at all next year or whenever this plan comes in, all the races in US and Canada would be happening on the same closer weekends, so they don't have to fly longer distances. But
That makes
now,
sense.
yeah, it makes sense. It'll also help the drivers, you know, better in terms of jet lag, and it's also better for the planet. Also, the engines are super efficient. They're the most efficient engines on the planet currently, combustion engines. Like for a normal road car that we drive, efficiency is rated around 25%. Basically, if you take a unit of fuel, how much of its energy can you, you know, effectively convert into onto the road, onto the wheels? So that is at 25%. The normal cars, for these guys, it's at 50%. So that is all achieved through so much innovation that's going on. Energy recovery systems, engine, you know, recovery systems are there, like recovering energy from braking, things like that. Basically, so much innovation is going. This is the forefront of, in what do you say,
Mechanical.
mechanical engineering. Yeah, that's one thing that made me also intrigued me when I started, when my friend recommended and he told me this, and I was like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, piqued my interest. But yeah, I mean, it is also a sport that is really elite in that the drivers have to have exposure to, you know, all this at a young age. So most of our culture, or most of our economics doesn't love that. But you know, for those who have made it in there, like Esteban Ocon, he's a driver who came from really humble backgrounds. He's currently driving for Alpine. He came from relatively very poor family, but he's up there now. So extremely 20 drivers, top of the world, best of the best. It's really hard to get there, but you know, once you get there, it's your hobby. What more do you need? I mean, you can say that's true for all the sports and entertainment business, I guess, but there's also so much risk involved. Death stuff. Yeah. Luckily, we haven't had much casualties last 6 years. Jules Bianchi was one driver. I think he died in 2014. I'm not sure, but yeah, safety is also one major. That's also one reason why the safety car, and you know, they were hesitant to start the race in the rain at Monaco. So safety is also becoming a big concern nowadays. Yeah, if anyone has been like a little bit also intrigued about Formula One, just Netflix Drive to Survive is a good place to start. I started watching that, and it was really good to, you know, like learn the basics about it. Also, there is so much drama involved, or so much fake drama that is, you know, injected about rivalries and stuff. So, but to learn the basic technical stuff and, you know, rules, and just to start enjoying Drive to Survive on Netflix would be good. Rush is a good movie. That says the story of Nicky Lauda and James Hunt, two big rivals, and you should watch that if you haven't. Have you watched it, Rush?
No, I haven't watched any of these.
Yeah, you should. I think it's on Netflix anyway. Brilliant movie. Yeah, I mean, that's about it, I think.
I would like to leave an open-ended question for the audience. We didn't get to dive into the organization structure of Formula One, but it would be quite interesting to have a case study of them. they are a successful global business, it would seem like. And it would be quite interesting to see how it became an organization, because the sport of motor racing is not exactly a business to start out with, but somehow a group of individuals have managed to seize it under their control and make it a product. So some intelligent folks out there.
I mean, is the NBA also like similar? I think like I've gotta really look into this. Like I've seen an NBA like has products. It also has official merchandise as a trademark. I mean, curious. Could be wrong, but we should dive into sporting business organizations. I don't know what even call it, but surely.
Could be interesting. Maybe I can place a bet and say that I don't think any of these are listed yet, as in they're not public companies. But I think it's safe to assume that soon enough they would list themselves on stock exchanges. Maybe there are some that are already listed. But let me do a quick search.
I mean, doesn't listing also like create the risk of value going down, value becoming
That's there for any company.
Yeah. In return for what? Capital inflow.
Basically. So I suppose if, like for example, Formula One, if they come up with some sort of expansion idea that does require the sort of scale that equity markets would provide, they might decide to go public. Yeah, see, what is this?
Are they listed?
No, I had a feeling like Juventus, the football club, was listed, and I was right. It's listed in Italy. It seems. So yeah, making everything commodities and trading it. It's very exciting to me.
You and business.
The future podcast listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Market capitalization of, let's say, 50 million US dollars. We will raise, let's raise.
What's our USP then? I mean, why would people?
I would have to argue that it has to be our personalities and our vision. Because more and more, I'm coming to realize that there are a lot of people starting podcasts. It seems like when we started this, like recently in the past few days, I'm getting advertisements for, like in UAE, in Dubai, there I came across 2 profiles, people who have started podcasts. So like it seems to be like multiple groups of people are having the same idea at the same time and choosing it to execute at the same time as well. So
I
let's
think
see.
it's because of the pandemic also, maybe. Do you think? I don't know. Like more virtual meetings.
That, and also it can be like just market cycles, right? Like initially it might have been considered as a risky industry to expand into. So it might be a sign of maturity. Yeah, oncoming maturity, not that it's mature. There was some sort of statistic that I saw that the podcasting market, something like that, is set to grow by 1 billion, from 3 billion to 4 billion, something like that, in the next 5 years or so. I'll try to look for the source for that and link it up.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you guys who are listening, check out our Slack workspace. and put up any thoughts or ideas that you might have, any topics that you might want us to look into. Just join that, and the link will be down in the description. Just engage with us so that we can also give you content that you would like to hear, to know more about. Yeah, and as like always, subscribe, like, and hope you liked whatever we were talking about, and that you learned something new, at least one thing new. I mean, from these conversations, that's our basic idea, that we both get to learn more from each other, that we learn from whatever little information it might also be that we might get through these conversations. That's the main point of why we started this podcast. So yeah, on that note, Aaron, do you want to close it?
No other specific closing comments. Thank you for tuning in. Join us for the ride. We are definitely committed for the long term. Let's see how we grow and stick with us as we do. See you next time.